Hello, people of YouTube. It's your boy Skinny Penis, and I am pausing the funny ass live gameplay series, the Random Safari, for a wee bit, since I also have to milk a bit of content out of Yodo now that I have some replays. It's going to be a double replay featured AAA series. I think we have never had that before. Actually, we did. We had a triple replay with the United States, but this ship is getting a video because of the exact opposite that United States got. The one thing was the most broken ship ever on release. This thing is most likely the most dog-ass worthless ship on release. An insult to the player base, an insult to everyone who has any idea about balancing and current state of World of Warships and what ships are good, what ships are bad, why they're good, why they're bad. Like, it just shows that if you have Vincent and Yodo released in a pretty small time frame together as new ships, it just shows that the balancing department doesn't know shit about the game. They don't play it. They just don't. I also don't know what they mean by looking at spreadsheets and numbers, because there's like, I don't know, man. It's impossible that the fucking testers had decent results in it overall. It's just impossible, man. Like, it doesn't work like this on that ship. In any case, so we can talk a whole lot longer about Yodo and why it's bad. Quickly looking at the matchmaking, which is obviously giving us the cancer. We're looking at submarine, 4 torpedo DDs that I will never be able to spot myself, ever. We're looking at I mean, Annapolis Napoli. Napoli pretty funny because I'm not doing any sort of damage to that thing, so it essentially just can roam freely in front of me. And we're looking at 3 super BBs that all overmatch me entirely, while I am a very fat, large, and immaneuverable cruiser. Epic. Just epic. So, this replay we're going to fast forward it. I'm quickly going to go over it while I rant about Yodo, just because this replay is perma-kite. That's essentially what you're going to mostly do in this ship. If you want decent amount of damage in Yodo, you have to perma-kite it. There's just no other way. The ship is it's impossible to push against most targets. You can't push against overmatch BBs, you can't push against improved pen angle cruisers like Petro, Stalin or Des Moines, because you can't use any of your guns. The moment you want to use your 3 back turrets, you get smashed repeatedly in the head, or even citadeled by cruisers, just because the gun angles are bad while pushing, and they're a bit better while kiting. Also, while you kite, you can obviously shit a whole bunch of torps out. We're going to go and talk about the torps in a second anyways. As you can see here, I'm large, I'm fat, I'm immaneuverable, battleships looks at me funny. I got really lucky here that I didn't get citadeled. The thing is just a damage pinata for anything. HE cruisers have a super easy time hitting it, just because the supposed light cruiser that is Yodo has worse turning circle than battleships. The rudder shift is atrocious. It's like inexistent. You have no armor. I mean, they gave it some pseudo bullshit 30mm deck, which doesn't do anything. I mean, in this game, for example, 3 super BBs, they pen me everywhere. So you're just chancing it on you not receiving citadels. I mean, at least they had the courtesy to give it 60k HP, so other people can farm more damage out of you and you stay alive a bit longer, doing essentially nothing. But in this game, for example, I'm going to end up getting 300k plus. The problem with that is you can't draw any conclusions as to how effective this ship is. The moment a ship in current World of Warships, the moment a ship has half decent HE with like half decent shell volume and fire chance and good, like decent reload, let's say, the moment you have HE essentially, you are able to get 300k games pretty easily. That's just it. The nature of the game is that there are lots of BBs with large HP pools that refuse to take fire prevention. You have the super BBs especially, so the moment you can get fires here and there, your fire damage is just going to get you over the finish line in terms of 300k games more often than not. So yeah, that's not really like a viable conclusion that this ship actually has some use. Problem with it is, yeah, it can HE kite like I do here. It can set fires. It does get a whole lot of damage on superstructures. The issue with that being that most other kite cruisers in the game currently do better at it, like way better. We're talking like even Zaos of this world do better. Zao gets higher pen, same reload essentially, better dispersion though, easier to hit shells, like you're way more effective at range because of your arcs and shell travel time. Yeah, I don't know, there's just no niche that this ship fills where it does better than anyone else. Problem here being, now we can like talk a quick bit about the torps. The torps seem, yeah, on paper, or like playing the ship, they seem super easy to use. And they give you the feel that they might be super effective, but they're the biggest bait in human or World of Warships history. I came to the conclusion that speccing anything related to torps on this ship is waste. It's just a waste. Your torpedoes have a spotting, a torpedo spotting from the moon, while there's also insane amounts of hydros on tier 10 and tier 11 at this point, while they're super slow on top of it. So like the torps is spotted all the time. You only have 8 that are super slow per side. I mean, just because the torpedo angles and the range is good doesn't mean you're actually going to get a whole lot of use out of them, to be honest, and it shows. Like, you can play 10 games of Yodo, you might end up with only 2 or 3 torpedo hits. What the torps are good for, and that's also the only thing that you can use them really effectively for, is if you play close to people, so you can either rush them, or when you get rushed around the corner, you can one-shot people with the torp alpha and the great angles. That's what they're best for, and for that you don't need to spec anything into them. It's just better to go full gun, buff the atrocious fucking guns a wee bit, and the DPM, which is like not even good at all. And yeah, you just go gun focus, and you shit the torps from time to time opportunistically into people that push you or something, or choke points, and maybe you get a torpedo hit here and there, but you can never ever play off the assumption that you will hit torps on this ship. Never ever. It doesn't work like a good torpedo boat or something like a Yinan. Even Yinan is just better. Like, if you get pushed by battleships and cruisers, Yinan torps are definitely way more of a threat. I mean, you can send 40 at the same time, which then you could definitely come to the conclusion, yeah, I'm going to hit like a few torps here. This ship, no, doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. The AP on it is inexistent. The torpedoes are bait, but the AP is actually like, don't use it ever. I guess unless you're like 3-4 kilometers close to flap broadside cruisers, you don't use that AP. The AP has worse performance than Ragnar, Trump, or something. I've heard now, like DDs with 150 millimeter that are already not known for the best AP performance. Like, Ragnar has decent HE, Trump too. I mean, it's kind of the same gun. But you can get penetrations, yeah, but they're not AP focused. Like, Clap obviously has way better performing AP. So you have destroyers that can counter light cruisers better than this thing can, even though this thing is a light cruiser itself with 150 millimeter guns. The Mogami guns are also not the same, from what I know. The Mogami guns are actually way better in terms of overall performance, like arcs and AP. They just gave this line a totally new turret and shell type, and yeah, it's just bad. It's just plain bad. The AP is just unusable. You get shatters on flat broadside Moskvas at 5 kilometers. You can't citadel that. That's how bad the AP is. So just, I guess, keep HE permaloaded and go into kite and farm people. I mean, I wouldn't know why you would pick Yodo for that if you want to AFK farm, because every other cruiser, as I already said, does it better. I mean, hell yeah, man, gunboats are doing it way better. Obviously, it's like, just no point to play this ship. So we're reaching the end of this game. As you could see, I started at A and kite, and I kited and kited and kited, and I kited over to the other side of the map. I stayed alive pretty long, and we're actually ending the game with 321k damage. And we're going to the detailed report in a second, so then you can see where it's coming from, which I say, like, even if you get these kind of damage numbers, that's not hard in World of Warships anymore. Any cruiser can do it. The only cruisers who can't really do it are ships like Sevastopol or Gibraltar, that are also really dog shit, but even those ships are better than Yodo overall. But Gibraltar and Sevastopol can't do it because obviously they don't have somewhat spammy HE or no HE at all. So since you're lacking the fire damage on the super BBs or high HP BBs like GKs and Preussens, yeah, like you lack the farm and you're not going to end up with 300k that often. But even with Yodo, it's possible. Like that was within 10 games of playing it. I just needed triple super BB without fire prevention. That's also the thing. Like these motherfuckers are not running fire prevention, which is like nice. It doesn't matter what ship I'm playing. The moment I set fires, these guys are burning and giving me 1 trillion damage. Yeah, but we lost the game. As you could see, my only impact in this game was kiting away and farming damage. So I'm completely reliant on my team, and in this scenario, my team's super ships were complete and utter trash. As you can see, out of the bottom 5, 4 of them are my super ships. 0 game impact, it's a disaster. Enemy team wasn't even that good, that's why it dragged out so long. And here you can see the detailed report. We're having Hanover, GK, Patry for a combined nearly 300k, and then I just had to hit 1 lucky torpedo on the Napoli for around 18-19k, and I already breached 300. But yeah, it's just farming damage on 3 super ships. If these super ships would have spec'd fire prevention, I have a super hard time laying consistent fires. So that's the next thing. The ship doesn't only have super low DPM, it obviously also only has 30mm pen since it's a light cruiser, so you don't pen most heavy targets at all. And on top of that, your fire chance is only 10% with that shit of a reload. So it's actually not that easy to get fires. I mean, hell yeah, the core problem is already hitting shells at above 15 kilometers and moving targets. Like, your arcs are so fucking dog shit. I don't even know why it gets 18-kilometer base range, because you're not gonna hit shit at 17 or 18 kilometers. The shell travel time is 14 seconds. It's absolutely atrocious. It's just fucking horseshit. We can go into the spec real quick. This is not the optimal spec that I would probably run overall if I want to have more game impact. I'm just running it because I'm currently leaderboarding it for the stream, since people paid me to suffer. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to get as much use overall out of it. The logic here being you spec a normal cruiser spec, but you go for heavy HE and the 1% fire chance, because you're just forced to be in kite permanently most of the game. There's not really anything you can do in this ship. Like, you can't move around, you don't have armor, you don't have gun angles, you don't even have that good of a conceal. If you're uh what is it? If you're if you're running what is it called? You're running, yeah, concealment, no heavy HE. So yeah, I'm trying to get more damage out of it, so the concealment deduction doesn't really matter for me in that sense, since we're in kite perma. Yeah, I mean, I would drop the heavy HE if I want to have a bit more game impact, I guess, and go for top grade or something, or outnumbered maybe. I'm running def AA because the AA is the only redeeming quality of this ship, though your hull is so bad that you most likely get fucked out super fast by carriers anyway. But bad carriers or half decent carriers can be griefed with the AA, it's not that bad. You're running reload mod, range mod doesn't make sense, the rest is basic stuff. Don't go for torp speed on the third module, obviously only go for guns, the torps are the biggest bait. Yeah, that's just Yodo spec, just don't go anything into torpedoes, just go guns only. We're hopping into the second replay immediately. There you go. There's not really much to say about Yodo specs, to be honest. What do we have here? We're running a tier 10 only match. This time we're not having super ships. We're getting Fowler Islands, which doesn't really have that many opportunities to permakite, to be honest, just because there's a lot of islands people could hide behind. So we're trying to actually play around islands this game to be closer to the enemy. That's the thing with Yodo. You should try to be as close to the enemy without risking too much of your ship, just because it makes it super easy for you to hit all your shells, since long range farming at 16-17 km, whereas Zhao, for example, would be actually really efficient. This ship lacks a whole lot of potential. This game is also going to be actually interesting in terms of gameplay. It's not going to be permakite, but I'm not going to end up with 300k therefore, so I don't know. Pick your poison, I guess. What you have to hope for in Yodo is either you get tier 8s and 9s, which you can... that's like even tier fights. Most tier 9s are like... even better than Yodo, but at least if you fight tier 9s, you have a more equal fight, because every single tier 10 ship in this game most likely just shits on you if it's a decent, half-decent player. I found myself figuring that if you're below 15 km towards 30mm cruisers, you can definitely inflict some damage. If they know what they're doing and they have hands and good aim, you're still going to be out-traded against most of them. Even though you have so much HP, it doesn't really matter. You're super easy to hit. Like, while you will be missing shots at above 10 km or a bunch of shells because of your shitty shell travel time and arcs, enemies have a super easy time fucking with you. By the way, regarding the spec, uh, the I'm not running the heavy HE and the rudder. Like, I wouldn't run the rudder in the concealment slot, because even if I go heavy HE and fuck my concealment a bit, it's still better to have half decent concealment in this ship to be able to go dark and kite more often. But in my opinion, the 40% rudder on that ship doesn't make sense at all, since you don't have the ability, because of your turning circle, to effectively dodge shells a whole lot. Like, what you do in this fat piece of junk that doesn't move is you stay angled and kite, and you just take it. Mostly you go accelerate dodge a bit, like backwards and forwards if the range allows for it, but otherwise you just take the shit, you accept your fate, and you try to make use of your 60k HP pool with 4 heals, and yeah, after that's gone, you're just dead, I guess. There is nothing really you can do. We only hit 1 torp in the first game, which was super lucky. You're also going to see that I'm not going to hit a whole lot of torps in the second game either, just because the torpedoes are bad. They're just bad. The reason being, the torps themselves are shit. And on top of that, on tier 10, there's a whole bunch of hydros. If you would go lower tiers, like torpedo cruisers on tier 7 and 8 or even 6 and so on, they're way more effective just because there's less hydro. Like, no BB essentially runs hydro down there. On tier 10, half the battleships are German ones that run hydro, and the other half is most likely perma-base kiters. That's the thing, like, really. The battleships that push have hydro most of the times, or sit on rock like Kreml, and you can't torp them effectively, and the other ships are fucking Vincents and Thunderers and Conquerors and Patries and Satsumas that will never come into your torpedo range. Like, never. It's a fucking disaster, man. I'm trying to go, I said, a bit closer here to the rock, since perma-kiting out is like, I don't know, man. It's, at some point it just becomes a wee bit boring. It becomes also really triggering, just because you know if I would kite here with any other cruiser, I would do more damage. So yeah, I'm trying, like, at least some moves with Yodo, being a bit closer, being nose in, getting interesting torp angles, maybe. Yeah. As said, also the only redeeming aspect, since people ask, what is good about Yodo? Well, there's nothing good about Yodo. There's only dog shit apart from, mayhaps, the AA. Which is a questionable thing to say, since AA only works, doesn't matter what ship really. I guess Darlarna and like Austin or so are maybe the only ships that can really cover themselves. You're not even like doing it for your team, by the way, but they can cover themselves against carriers, even good carriers, just because the good carriers don't want to lose planes, most likely, early game. Like, they don't want to throw a whole lot of planes just to inflict damage on you or keep you spotted. It's not because they would die attacking you. Like, if you're really good, most carriers are allowed to attack these ships anyways. Yeah, but yeah, it's only good if the enemy CV is bad. Then you can fuck with them. So yeah, I guess that's not really like a whole bunch of impact to be had there. As you can see, I'm like sending torps over torps into the Vincent flank, but it's just like pointless. They arrive way too late. If they arrive, they're spotted. You're just not gonna hit them. You're super dependent in Yodo on your team's ability to, I don't know, have a brain. If your team is dumb, ints, especially the DD's int, or your BBs are AFK, you have such limited options of even playing the game in Yodo. Like, if you're being outspotted and torped the entire time in Yodo by enemy DDs because yours died, you most likely have to fuck off perma and you just don't have any impact anymore. If your battleship's AFK and you're the one tanking if you shoot, since you kind of want to shoot, if your battleships are AFK, you're just going to get focused out. You're super easy target even in kite to hit for BBs. It's like I'm getting lucky here, by the way. That guy grieves himself by greeting for the shots, doesn't get citadels, but eats the submarine torps. As you could see here, you can get heavy HE also, Spectre said, so you can get 10k hits on cruisers that have 30mm armor. So you kind of have to play it in somewhat assassin-like way, where if you have a cruiser pushing, you try to get into a good position, then you open up with a great volley already. It's like Zao, but we can repeat it over and over again. Zao is just more effective because it has more pen, better dispersion, easier to hit shells, and better stealth too. Yeah. So I went from one rock to the other one. I'm trying to limit, obviously. I'm trying to figure out a way on this map currently, Faroe Islands, to use the islands in a way that I can limit the amount of angles that people can shoot me from. But now I'm like in a wee bit of a fucked position. I'm still spotted. I'm having an issue here with the Mecklenburg maybe having an angle if I go forward, but the Vincent, Repub are coming, and the Monty are coming from behind, or like are behind me, especially like Vincent and Repub are a problem here. So if I stay here, I'm running the risk that these 32mm overmatches that completely ignore my armor will fuck me out. I'm trying to go forward here. I'm going to eat a whole bunch of damage, but luckily I get out. You will also see here that me not going full lighthouse, or like even harder into the lighthouse spec with rudder mod, is helping out in terms of going dark. It helps a bit, and that's exactly what I wanted, just because the ship needs going dark, the option of going dark if you're far away. Otherwise battleships start perma-shitting on you, and they hit you consistently, even at ranges. It's a problem. You can see here that's a 16k I'm shot, I'm accelerating, turning away. But he's still gonna throw any me through the ass. Here you go. In both games I got super lucky in terms of citadels on me. Like the first game, for example, if you remember the 3 BB shooting me, 2 of them super battleships, Hanover and Patry. And I didn't eat sits through the ass, which is very unlikely. Like normally, if these kind of shells come in, you're definitely going to suffer 1 or 2 sits plus pen damage, so you kind of death strike. Here it's like, well, occasionally you catch some idiot with a torpedo, and then the alpha kicks in. Here, as you can see, he's 13 km away, and since I'm not full lighthouse, I can actually go dark here with 5.8k, get my last heal out, and you will see that we're also going to keep killing people from behind islands. I guess that's something you can do, like in some maps, some angles you can spam over islands just because your arcs are so bad that you don't really have to be open water, because you can clear the islands consistently. We're going to send a lot of torps here again. Spoiler alert, it's only going to be 1 more torpid this game. Yodo at least gets ASW planes. You don't have ship-based ASW, which is great, obviously. Like cruisers with ship-based ASW. By the way, for some reason the tier 8 and 9 get, and I don't know about the low tiers, I don't really care. Like they're so bad, like whatever. Even the tier 8 and 9, the direct comparison in the other tech tree are better. Like Mogami and Ibuki are better than the shit they put into the game here. Like there's no redeeming aspects about them. Like they make you believe that the torpedoes are the redeeming quality. Easier torp angles and better maybe like better torp alpha, maybe even, I don't really know. I think the tier 8 has like better torp alpha, but it's bait. Like you're not gonna hit these consistently. Like it's not like nerfing the guns to the ground, but giving it torpedoes that are supposedly like going to make up for it. It doesn't work. The torpedoes are not going to make up for the lack of gun performance. It's just a problem. Given the fact that they released Marseille and especially like Vincent in kind of the same time frame now, the past half year to year, it kind of baffles me that these things even make it live. Also, as said, like they talk about them like collecting data and looking at some sort of shitty spreadsheet, and I'm like, what the fuck are you looking at? I mean, I don't know. Do your number guys even know maths, or like do your number guys know basic? Can they compare basic numbers? Like this ship can't have been on a lot of average damage on the testers. It couldn't have had more average damage than Marseille. I swear to God, it is impossible. But you also know that Marseille does way more effective damage because it has the HE penetration, so the HE pens are less healable. You can also get fires at the right times, and your AP is incredible on Marseille, which is also super effective damage with the citadels. So, assuming that Marseille did more damage in testing, which it obviously fucking did, um, you know that the damage on Marseille is more impactful, more overall. And then you look at this ship and like, what the fuck? Can't their number guys compare like two numbers? Like, hello? I mean, they even said some shit. Like, they always make up some garbage, man, for the specific case where it applies. Like, ooh, yeah, like Smolly is fine because the damage is just low pen HE on superstructure and fires, a lot of fires, and that's like healable, so it's less impactful. It's like, okay, you use that argument there to make Smolensk a thing, and then you release Yodo, where it's essentially the same fucking logic. Like, your torpedoes are unhittable, your fucking gun platform, like the hull and ship itself, is some incredible dog shit and completely useless, and your damage is also the same thing. Unless you're penning 30mm cruisers, you're not penning anything. You can't take IFHE because your DPM is super mediocre, and you're only getting 32 threshold, you're not even getting the 38 threshold. So, and you're cucking your fires completely. And the last game you saw it, like, there are Hanovers and GKs running around in full force, or like Schlieffens or Kremls or whatever the fuck, soon Uchakov. And what are you going to do against these ships without fire chance? I mean, the fire chance on this ship is already atrocious, uh, even though it should be a ship that like burns people to the ground, because that's like the only option the ship has in terms of impact, doing a whole bunch of damage and staying afloat and like doing even more damage and shit. Like it's like any other kite cruiser. And this one even more so, because the hull doesn't allow you to push. It just doesn't, man. The gun angles, it just doesn't. I don't know, man. It's just like, it's an insult. It's an insult. It's an insult. It's an insult that this is even sold for $300 or some shit. You could get early access towards it, and they didn't even have the courtesy to put a disclaimer on it. The ship is fucking dog shit. Like, what? The ship's so bad. Like, paying $10 for it would be too much. Man, hell yeah, if I would get paid fucking $10 for to play this ship, it would be too little, by the way. Like, literally. Holy shit. Like, even my fucking sub goal there to play this ship for 80 games was heavy lowball, dude. Heavy lowball. The amounts of pain you're suffering through playing this ship is incredible. It's incredible. And if you remind yourself constantly of the fact that you could have played like any other cruiser in the same situation, you wouldn't have ended up with more damage, man, you're going to lose your mind in no time. Holy shit, dude. Whatever, man. As you can see here, if people are fucking retarded and really stupid, you can actually get some damage and impact. I mean, most of the BBs just like didn't really care for me at all anymore, and the Summers went into the middle instead of spotting me up top and shit, and I got the Yamamoto proc off, but then again, like, I couldn't heal back any other damage, because apparently Yamamoto, even though you get a fucking Kraken, doesn't heal back unhealable damage, so I'm stuck with 13.7 max instead of healing back to 40-50k and maybe trying to win the game. But at least I could trade out the Smolly in a 1 versus 1 because I had a fucking Yamamoto proc. That's the best thing about it. The Yamamoto heal going the entire time. The entire fucking time I get HP back, while I also have like some sort of 36-second reload reduction on this ship while running like, I don't know, fucking 18% AR, and I can barely beat a shitty fucking Smolensk in a 1 versus 1. That also fucked it because he turned randomly in, even though I can't pen him with AP. Like, you could literally not pen that thing with AP at that angle or range, most likely. So that motherfucker turning in and only using his front guns made me actually able to kill him with a fucking Yamamoto proc. Hello? What world are we living where I have to get a Kraken to be able to fight certain cruiser, or like most cruisers at all? It's like, if that's a Gibraltar or Des Moines or something, I can just go back to port. There's nothing I do. I can use fucking two turrets, because the moment I want to angle up to use more, I get Shadow and I get Citadel and I get one shot against most cruisers. Let alone battleships, man. Holy shit. Fucking awful of a cruiser. Like, this is an insult for the player base. Jesus Christ. It's like, wow, man. Gets me going, dude. Gets me fucking going. The The next thing, I mean, I have to calm down now because otherwise I'm going to probably die because of an aneurysm or a stroke. The next thing also on this ship, which is super insulting, is the fact that it has zero turret armor. Like the turrets break. Like I mean, I guess they thought like, oh yeah, you have 6 turrets, so if like 2 or 3 or sometimes even 4 or fucking 5, like literally, I had 4 or 5 turrets break at one point. I think 4 turrets and 3 turrets breaking at the same time isn't even like that rare. It happens a whole lot because they break against everything. Everything. DDSAP, DDHE essentially. Like I don't know, but some DDHEs penetrate these, yeah, and fucking disable them for sure. Um, but like every HE shit, every AP, every SAP, everything, man. My fucking grandmother farting 600 kilometers away is most likely going to break all my turrets and ship in half. Like what, man? It's 25 millimeter armor on top of that. On the like the turrets have 25, but also 25 on the sides, nose, the ass. There's obviously no icebreaker. There's some pseudo bullshit 30 millimeter armor on the deck. Like I don't fucking know what that's supposed to be. Like hey, cool, I can ricochet a Bismarck in a Yodo. Like I guess that's cool. You're not even like going to effectively bounce that much against like Monties or something because you just have the shell count that they fuck you through the superstructure and so on anyways, or ass or side plating. Like the ship is too large and too easy to hit that I mean most of the shells are also going to hit the side plating. Like I don't know, man. And if you go fully ass in and I dare them to hit my booty because you're going to get citadel immediately, man. Holy shit, dude, the fucking ship, man. God damn it. Going into the end screens, as you can see, if there is multiple forms of brain damage in the enemy team, you can end up getting half decent games, actually pretty good games. The thing is though, you need constant ignorance from the enemy team towards you. Like lots of people have to ignore you or misposition. And the thing is always like, yeah, well, if you play against bots, it doesn't matter what kind of ship you take. You're going to have the opportunity to do a whole lot of damage and game impact. And that's just it. 2 torpedoes here, 1 in the game before. Like we do 320 or 287k damage respectively, but we essentially don't do that through torps at all. That is even lucky that we got torpedoes here. As said, they're like a rushing tool or a rushing protection. They're not really an effective armament. God damn it. I mean, even in this game we got Withera, by the way. Like we were able to burn people. I ended up with 2,500 base XP in a loss, which is an insult to my entire team. It's literally insulting for them. They should burn their PCs if a Yodo is first, nearly matching the enemies first in terms of base XP. They should run as fast as possible to the next gas station, get a fucking bunch of gasoline, and burn their PC forever. Like ever, forever, man. Insulting. Also, like, look at this, man. There's 2 Vincents. Second and last and second last. 2 Vincents, bro. Vincent. Double Vincent diff. And then it's followed up by obviously my favorite destroyer ever, Haaland. They're just like these 4 cum guzzlers did nothing, man. They did nothing. It's insulting that I'm first. It's insulting. For me, for everyone, for the fucking player base. You can see here, we got to that high of a damage because of 100k fire damage and just spamming HE. That's the thing, like you can get half decent damage, but you just have to stay alive as long as possible, shitting HE. Ignore everything else in terms of armament, AP and torps. And yeah, you could also see here I tanked 107k, so it's essentially take the enemy damage, accept it, and try to stay alive and kite. Don't go, I guess, yeah, don't go into torps, don't go into rudder mod, in my opinion. Just go heavy HE, try to perma-kite, but like, I don't know, man. Just don't play the ship, man. Just fucking sell it. Just sell it. Like, don't even go there. I mean, I guess rebuy it when there's a super container and, I don't know, you want a super container with 50 ship XP camos. I guess, yeah, then rebuy it, but like, I don't know, even for that I wouldn't. The ship is it's just an insult. It's an insult. In any case, this is the incident, the tier 10 cruiser incident Yodo. They're most likely going to buff it. It's impossible they don't. It's impossible, man. They could never make an argument ever again in the history of balancing where they say some bullshit argument about looking at a spreadsheet. That is not viable anymore if Yodo is a thing. It's not. It's not. Like no metric in the entire universe is saying that this ship is somewhat viable or decent. No metric in the entire universe does that. It's no. 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 There's a cruiser in the same nation in this like next branch to it. Like you can go into the game, look at the tech trees, and you can click 2 millimeters to the left, and you have a more viable cruiser that is already being memed on for 4 or 5 years straight because it's so bad. And then imagine you put nah, dude, I don't know, man. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know. I see you guys next video. Goodbye. Goodbye.